I couldn't believe I'd overheard my own relatives dissecting me as if I were inconsequential. It began with a minor error, or perhaps destiny intended for me to learn the honest reality. My older sister, Emily, had discarded her old phone when she got a newer one, and since mine was practically falling apart, I started using it. I didn't bother to erase any data from it. One evening, I was in my bed browsing when a notification appeared. A group chat, specifically family-related. A chat I didn't know was even a thing. My nosiness got the better of me and I clicked on it. Emily. She's so embarrassing. She consistently puts us first, even when we treat her poorly. Mom, that's what she's there for. She's never stood up for herself. Just like Dad, Emily, it's actually comical. She works extra hours to pay bills, but she won't do anything for herself. Mom, because she knows she deserves nothing better. Emily, I bet if we asked, she'd give up her college savings to help pay for my wedding. Mom. We should try it. The screen became blurry as tears stung my eyes. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. They were making fun of me, ridiculing me. The individuals I'd devoted my whole life to, staying up late to prepare supper when Mom was exhausted, giving Emily cash when she needed it, always putting their needs before my own. And they believed I was weak for doing so. I ground my teeth, struggling to suppress the emotion rising in my throat. My whole frame trembled, but not because I was sad anymore. I was furious. They figured they had me cornered. They probably thought I would endure it indefinitely. I let them think that, until the instant I finally left them for good. I acted like nothing had altered for the next several days. I still helped with the cooking, kept working extra shifts to ensure all the bills were covered, and continued to smile and nod when Emily complained about her wedding preparations. But in my mind, I was finished. Every single thing they said felt like a blade digging into me. Each insincere smile made me sick. I wasn't a member of this family. I was their worker, and they were clueless that I understood the situation. Then Emily arrived home one night, practically radiant. I secured the ideal wedding location, she announced, plopping down in the chair next to me. Oh, I pretended to be interested. But there's a snag, she whined. It's somewhat over budget, but I figured you wouldn't object to contributing, right? Mom jumped in without a second thought. You don't need college immediately, sweetie. Emily's wedding takes precedence. I stared at them, utterly shocked. They had already made up their minds that I would provide the funds, but I just smiled. Naturally, because they were totally unaware of what was on the horizon. That night, I checked my bank account and moved every cent from my college fund to a new account solely in my name. Then, I formulated a plan. During the following few weeks, I behaved exactly as they anticipated. I acted like the perfect daughter, always doing as I was told. My actions made their lives simple. I even listened to Emily vent about her dress fittings, who was invited to the wedding, and her ridiculous, over-the-top wedding cake. However, I was secretly planning my departure. I began getting rid of things they wouldn't realize were gone: old jewelry, purses, anything that had monetary value. All the money I got went directly into my new bank account. Then I received the last thing I needed, a job offer. It was far, far away. A place where I couldn't be found by them. It was my opportunity to get away. The breaking point happened sooner than I anticipated. One night, Emily burst into my room, her eyes filled with anger. You haven't wired the money to the venue. I pretended I didn't know what she was talking about. Oh, I thought I had, I replied. She glared. Double check. Mom said she'd called and the place hadn't gotten the payment. Mom showed up in the doorway, arms folded. We need that money right now, sweetie. This isn't about you. Something inside me broke. I stood up and a feeling of danger washed over me. I don't have the money anymore, I stated calmly. I used it. Emily turned white. For what? For me. For the first time in my life, I watched them become afraid. Mom took a step closer, her voice hard. That money was for the family. I started to laugh, truly laugh. You mean it was for Emily? They were silent, which was the answer I needed. That was the moment I left for good. They started screaming. They pleaded. Emily's cries echoed through the house. How could you treat me this way? My mother's voice was trembling. Where will you go? You have no other options, but they were mistaken. I picked up my suitcase, the one that had been tucked away in my closet without them ever noticing it, and hoisted it onto my shoulder. I've got a job, I replied in an even tone. and I have my own apartment. I don't need you anymore. I'd never witnessed my mother appear so scared before, not of losing me, but of losing the person she could always take out her frustrations on. I walked past them, stepping outside, entering a life where I finally felt important. There was no response from me. After years of being treated like a punching bag, after giving everything to them while they talked down to me when I wasn't around, I had finally stopped cooperating. And now they were falling apart. My mom, who had always spoken to me as if I were a burden, now craved my attention. Emily, my perfect older sister, whom they always adored while they treated me like a minor character in my own life, was nothing without me. They had spent years acting like I was easily replaced. Now they were starting to understand the reality. I wasn't dispensable. I was the core of everything, and I had just left. I adjusted to my new existence, but old patterns were hard to break. Initially, I found myself pausing in the supermarket, wondering if I should buy the cheaper food item so I could set aside money for the bills for the house. Except, there weren't any bills like that anymore. Not anymore. Nobody's home anticipating me to prepare a meal. There's no one fawning, insisting I fix what they've messed up. Just me. For the very first time, my earnings were solely mine. That's why I splurged on the fancy coffee and got those cozy blankets. Those small comforts I always told myself I couldn't have. Returning to my small apartment, I sat down, sipping coffee in the utter quiet. No shouting. No obligations, only tranquility. I'd never known serenity like that before. The initial time I socialized with my colleagues after work, it seemed unbelievable. I'd always thought I wasn't someone folks included in their plans. I was the dependable one. The person they relied on when they needed something, yet never the person they wanted to simply spend time with. But here I was, seated in a tiny restaurant, sharing laughter with individuals who genuinely appreciated my presence. Not because they were taking advantage of me. Not because they felt they had the right to my availability, simply because they liked my company. A strange sensation settled in my heart. Something pleasant, a sense of belonging. I hadn't realized how much I yearned for that until now. It had been 8 weeks since I'd last talked to my relatives. 2 months of stillness, 2 months of starting over. 2 months of liberty, and then one night my phone vibrated, a text from Emily. "I can't believe you're doing this to me," she said. "Do you even care about family?" I looked at the display. A wave of revulsion rose within me. She wasn't saying sorry. She wasn't contemplating anything. She was still pushing my buttons, attempting to control me. I focused on calming down. Next, I did something I never thought I'd do. I cut her off. I blocked my mom. I blocked every possible way they could contact me. I prioritized myself for the first time ever, and it was wonderful. Several weeks went by. I anticipated getting more texts, possibly even them appearing on my doorstep. But that didn't occur. Instead, I began to get whispers. My extended family, who had always acted like they didn't know how I was treated, started to reach out. Some tried to make me feel guilty. "My mother is suffering. She's crushed you've left. Emily's wedding was called off, and she's crushed. You should be there for her." I didn't respond. Then one of my cousins, who had always been nice to me even though he kept his distance, sent a very different message. "I understand what happened. I wanted you to know I admire you for leaving. They never treated you fairly." I read the message and my chest tightened. Somebody saw me. Somebody grasped the situation, my eyes filled with tears. But this time I wasn't sad. It was a feeling of pure relief. One day I received an email from my mother. It was brief, harsh, straight to the point. "I hope you're pleased. You destroyed this family." I read it once. Then again, and then I chuckled. She genuinely believed I was the issue. Not the years of insults, not how they used me, took advantage of me. They fully anticipated me giving up everything for their benefit. Absolutely not. In her mind, I was the bad guy for ultimately choosing myself. I didn't even respond. It wasn't worth it. I just removed the email and continued with my life. The months flew by. I thrived, my career improved, and I was given a promotion. I built genuine friendships. I discovered a side of myself I never knew existed. It was a version of myself that wasn't dictated by their need for my approval. And then, out of the blue, I saw them again. I had just entered a coffee shop when I heard her. "Oh my God!" I spun around. It was Emily. She looked changed, strained, exhausted, like a person who had never figured out how to care for themselves because she always expected someone else to do it for her. For a very brief moment, my old reactions surfaced. A brief flash of worry. A part of me wanted to ask if she was doing all right. But then I remembered. She was no longer my problem. Her mouth opened. I just turned away. I walked over to the counter. I ordered my coffee. I could sense her eyes on me. Waiting, hopping, I would acknowledge her presence, but I didn't. She had spent so many years acting as if I didn't even exist. Now she knew the feeling. Seeing Emily at that cafe left me feeling completely empty. I'd always figured I'd always feel some level of duty toward them. I thought, no matter how they harmed me, that I could never fully separate myself. However, as I observed her standing there, her eyes wide open, her lips slightly parted as if she was desperately trying to think of the precise words to pull me back into her orbit, I realized a crucial truth. I owed her absolutely nothing, not a smile, not a single word. It wasn't even pity I felt towards her. At that point, she was utterly insignificant to me, and the liberty I felt was exquisite, unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. However, in my heart, I understood that this wasn't finished. The situation wasn't resolved. There was someone else besides Emily who desired something from me. My mother was lurking, waiting, and it was inevitable that she would make her play. Sure enough, 3 days later, my prediction came true. Someone pounded on my door. It was loud and it wouldn't stop. I didn't need to look through the little hole. I already knew exactly who it was. It was Mom. I thought about pretending I wasn't home, letting her stay outside in the cold like she had abandoned me for years, but I decided not to. I wanted to confront her. I wanted her to see me, not as the weak, passive daughter she used to manipulate, but as the woman who had permanently left her. I unlocked the door. She was there, arms folded, her lips drawn into a thin line. "You look well," she said to me. Her words were not complimentary. They were filled with blame. It was like she couldn't handle the fact that I was doing fine without her. I leaned against the doorframe, mimicking her crossed arms. "What do you want?" I asked her. She let out a harsh breath and her eyes darted away. "Can I come inside?" "No." She recoiled slightly. This was the first time ever that I had refused her something, but I was depleted. I couldn't give her anything. She let out a long sigh, then massaged her forehead. "All right, we'll speak right here." I didn't reply. I allowed the silence to hang in the air. I wanted her to feel uneasy. I wanted her to realize she no longer held the power. After a few moments, she cleared her throat. "I know you've been avoiding us," she stated. It was about time I stopped acting immature, I thought. I almost chuckled at the idea. Immature? Was leaving those who ridiculed and exploited me really considered childish? I shifted my gaze slightly. How could that be? She was clearly upset. "We're related by blood," she insisted. "We shouldn't simply desert each other." I allowed her statement to sink in. I let the blatant dishonesty linger in the atmosphere. Then I spoke my truth. "You abandoned me ages ago." Her gaze immediately locked onto mine. She was speechless for the very first time. A prolonged stillness developed between us. I could see it in her expression, the way she tightly balled her hands into fists. How her lips tightened as she attempted to remain composed. Mom didn't enjoy when she lost control. She had devoted her entire life to shaping me into the ideal, compliant daughter. The one who would give up everything and demand nothing in return. And now, that daughter had disappeared. "I have no idea what you're referring to," she finally stated, her tone sharp. "We've always looked after you." I exhaled deeply, gently shaking my head. "That's simply untrue." Her eyes darted away for a moment. "Of course we have. You called me pathetic," I calmly said. "You and Emily both laughed about how I consistently put you ahead of myself, even when you mistreated me terribly. You claimed I was only valuable when I was sacrificing for you." Her complexion became ashen. I smiled wryly. "You don't even deny it." She let out a sharp breath. "I don't have time for this discussion." "Nope," I stopped her short. "You don't have time for me. You never did, unless you wanted something." Her nostrils widened. "That isn't the truth." I crossed my arms. "So you're just checking in, not requesting anything?" She paused uncertainly, and that told me everything. She let out a long, weary breath, massaging her forehead as if she was the one in pain. At last, she dropped the pretense. "Fine," she retorted sharply. "I do need something." Of course, she did. She straightened her posture, reclaiming a bit of her typical icy assurance. Emily's having a hard time. She hasn't been the same since the wedding was called off. I didn't respond. Mom sighed. She needs assistance, she said. Financial assistance. I let out a slow, incredulous exhale. You're beyond belief, I said. She scowled. I beg your pardon, she treated me with utter contempt. I replied, my voice steady but carrying a steely edge. She humiliated me, ridiculed me, exploited me, and now, because her life is falling apart, you anticipate me to jump in and rescue her. She's your sister, she stated. I gave a small, humorless laugh. No, she isn't, I replied. Mom's eyes widened slightly. What are you implying? I said plainly. I don't have a sister, not anymore. The words felt liberating to say. Mom's expression became rigid. You're being unkind. No, I said, taking a step forward, my voice low and resolute. Unkind is what you were, I said. Unkind is labeling your own daughter pathetic behind her back. Unkind is expecting me to ruin my future just so Emily can have a wedding she didn't earn. Her lips tightened. You're making a grave error, I smiled. No, I'm finally making the right decision. I took a step back and shut the door on her face. As soon as the lock clicked, a huge sense of relief flooded over me. I had finally won. For so long, I'd been at their disposal, their source of money, the target of their abuse, but no more. I didn't bother to see if she was still there. I didn't give a damn. I turned and went into my place, then sank down on the sofa. And for the very first time, I allowed myself to simply breathe. Several days went by, then weeks. My mother never came back. Emily never bothered to try again. And just like that, the burden that I'd carried for ages vanished. I thrived, I journeyed. I found companions who genuinely appreciated me. I truly lived, and I never, not once, missed them. One day, while I was strolling through town, I saw them again. My mother and Emily, seated in a little cafe. Their expressions were troubled. They looked unlike they had before. Not the put-together, flawless individuals they'd presented themselves as previously. They seemed exhausted, anxious. Like individuals who had finally understood they'd lost the only one who had kept everything running. I paused for only a moment, just long enough for Emily's gaze to meet mine. She tensed up. My mom turned, her expression unreadable. For a split second, I thought they might come over to me. Maybe they would say they were sorry, but they didn't, they understood. I wasn't theirs anymore. I turned and walked away, not even glancing their way again. I created a new existence for myself. A wonderful existence, one where I felt important, where I was valued. Where I was loved, not for what I could give, but simply for who I was. And as for them, they simply became memories, just like the shadows they'd always been. I never looked back, and I never felt any regret.